space to do more interesting things. So, welcome everyone. Perhaps one or two of you, it might be your first Zoom class. I can see there's a couple of you there, Catherine and John, who have got your screen off, and that's completely fine if you prefer to keep your screen off. If you keep your screen on, however, it does give me a little opportunity to see you. So whilst we're practicing, I can point out if you need to move your foot here or there. But it's okay. Again, if you want your screen off, that's fine. But listen to your body, listen to your breath. Take a pause if you need to. Use child pose, use Tadasana. Lay down on your back anytime you need to. So, you've got various options. If it's too much, the posture we're in, it's going to be a fairly chill class because it's an evening class, and I want you to not go home. You're already home, but I want you to come out of the class at the end and just be ready for bed, perhaps. So, welcome, Swagatam. So we'll come to sit as I'm sitting in Sukhasana. Now, you may need a block or a book or a folded blanket you can have. So all of these things, or a towel, and perhaps a strap of some kind. So it can be like a dressing gown belt or something is useful, or a scarf. So just have those things ready. If you haven't got yoga blocks, books are good, and bath towels are very good. I'm just going to change you back to gallery view on here if I can. Oh, it appears that I can't. I've lost you all on this one. There we go. Now I know. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just working my way around my iPad. I've got it now, so we're off. Okay, so Sukhasana. A nice, compact, cross-legged position. Your shins are forwards rather than tucking under the body. Draw your buttock flesh out and back, and you sit yourself on a block or a folded blanket or towel if you need to. So you need to, if you feel a little collapsed in the lower back. So if you have this tendency to drop back into your lower back, then raise up your seat and that will pull you up like this. So we want the spine to sit in its natural alignment. And then you can place your hands on your knees and you can close your eyes and you can find your breath. So taking a few, perhaps, you might deepen the breath to start with to sort of catch hold of the awareness of your breath. Sometimes we have to be more deliberate in our breath to tune into our breath. But then when we've found the breath, what we want to do is allow the breath to fall into its own natural rhythm, its own natural flow. And this is important in that although we do use breath control practices where we're being very deliberate with the breath in yoga, it's with a purpose. It's with a purpose to become more intimate with prana, more intimate with the life force. But ultimately, what we want to do is to trust in that life force, here and now, that, it's flowing. Our breath is flowing. It knows how to breathe. It breathes for us 24 hours a day. It's been breathing for us for all our life. So we allow this attunement to the breath that starts to move into a relationship with the breath where neither you are breathing your breath or your breath is breathing you, but there's a merging. There's a merging between the experience of self and the experience of breathing. So allow the shoulders to soften and find a light rising up through the body. You are free to move here, of course, as always. So You might have a little gentle movement from side to side, perhaps, if it helps you to find a lightness in your lift. So this is, this is really important, that we want to find this lightness in our lift. We can be sort of overly active in our practice, to move to a lift, to sit to attention, but we're not sitting to attention, we are sitting in attention. We're sitting in awareness. So that requires an easy, steady flow. Now you might find perhaps you're fairly still here. Perhaps you have added a little deliberate movement. Or perhaps you found your body naturally moving by itself. Perhaps there's a little sway that comes in. Sometimes I find I start to move into a little rotation that happens almost by itself, that I just drop into a place where I find that settled place starts to pick up almost like a little internal flow of movement, an internal flow of energy, and it may come into the body with a little circling action or a little swaying action. So, you're not deliberately creating this, although you might, there's nothing wrong with deliberately creating it. But if we are deliberately creating an action, we want to feel, again, that connection between the action and the connection between ourself that is experiencing the action. So it's not something that is separate to, the subjective experience. The object of our movement and the subject of us feeling, witnessing this movement, they come together. So it becomes imperceptible that we are creating the movement, that we are the actor of this movement, and the movement is a product of us making it happen, but they just merge into each other. And then hopefully by now our breath has settled into a steadier flow. And as you've settled into that steadier flow, we start to feel this experience of self. Okay, now you may allow that, if there's any movement, to settle, and allow yourself to just slowly, steadily open your eyes, and you may release your legs out in front of you and give them some movement. Perhaps you need to get a little bit of movement into the hips, or a little rub into the hips after sitting cross-legged for a while. And then we're going to come to lay ourselves on the floor. So come down onto your back. Okay. And you can take your arms out to the side, so you can have this nice bit of space here. Hopefully you've got plenty of space in your home yoga studio. But if you haven't got so much space to have the arms out nice and wide, you can take the arms more above the head, so you can use that space. You should have enough space for a yoga mat at least, so you can shuffle yourself down and then take that space that you have behind your head. And then just pause and breathe and enjoy this openness across the chest. Enjoy this openness through the front body. And we're allowing ourselves to tune into the subtleties here. So If we pay attention, then we might find, oh, okay, I noticed that I need to open up the back of the knees a little, and you will naturally want to step your feet forwards. Or you notice that you need to release through the front groin area at the top of the thighs, and that may lead you to repositioning your feet. So position yourselves into a place that feels restful, it feels easeful, and it feels conducive to coming into that subjective objective emergence. Okay, so we feel into the body and we awaken what we are experiencing in the body. It's like, the mind is not observing, as we often have that relationship. Oh, I can feel this in my body, and it's like there's someone standing behind that experience, watching that experience. But what we do is we kind of dive into it, like, we're diving into a pool of water, and that pool of water is the experience that we're having now. Okay, so we're going to draw our knees in towards our chest, and we're going to walk out the pelvis a little. And we're going to come into a little twisting action. Now, as we twist the body to one side, what we're going to do here is we're going to allow the lower leg, what will become your lower leg, will remain bent, and the top leg is going to extend out. So you can start by perhaps walking your pelvis out so you've got a bit more space in the lower back. And then as you bring the legs over to one side, which you can come towards the screen, and that way you can still see what's going on, that lower leg is going to tuck under, and that top leg is going to extend out in a sort of diagonal position. So we're coming into a semi-twist, but we're keeping this length through the front of the body. Hopefully you can all see that action. I have lost contact with my iPad, so I'm relying on, I can see 3 of you at the moment, or 3 screens from a distance. So that top leg reaches out, the bottom leg is tucked under, and we're breathing, and you can play into that. You might sway that top leg a little to feel into it. You may need to bend the knee if it feels too strong on the outer hip. Bending the knee, bringing the foot to the floor will assist with that. Okay, and then you're going to bring yourselves back into the center. You may land your feet to realign if your pelvis feels like it's slipped out of alignment from the center. Land your feet, walk the pelvis out, do whatever you need to do, tuck the shoulders under, and then we'll move to the other side. So what becomes the lower leg tucks under with the knee bent. The top leg extends away, and you feel that extension through the front of the body. You breathe, you soften your forehead, you release your jaw, and you give yourself completely here. Okay, and again, feel free into any movement that you need there, any modification. You are what I love more than anything, and although I am limited in what I can see here of you guys, but what I love in a regular yoga class is seeing people exploring the posture, from their own intuitive awareness, this quality called pratibha in Sanskrit, which is this sort of deepest knowing that comes from within. It leads us into sometimes more spontaneous movements of the body that aren't born out of what we know of a posture or what we've sort of been trained in a posture, but they come out of our own exploration. Now, when you're ready, roll yourselves back into the center, land the feet, and again, you might lift up the pelvis, lengthen it away, place it back down to the floor. Have a deep breath. So a deep breath is a steady breath. It's a breath that's deep because we soften around the rib cage, we soften around the chest, we soften around the diaphragm, and it allows the breath to reach into the depths of our body. And as we release that breath, we give to it completely. We give to the exhalation. There is a surrender, there's a letting go that happens as we exhale, and we can use that letting go of the exhalation to let go into our body, to just give ourselves here and now. We're in a nice, simple position that doesn't tax the body at all. We will come into some more energetic movement. If there's part of you that's craving that, don't worry, it will come. But your job here as a yoga practitioner, as a yoga student, is to just be with what you're experiencing right now. Okay, let's roll ourselves onto our side and just come up from your side and come onto your hands and knees. And we're going to try move into a little bit of movement through the body. We are going to be coming into the probably not that popular Gomukhasana, but we're going to play into a little bit of movement first of all. So we're going to extend one leg back and we're going to allow ourselves to move back and forth. So again, this might be dependent on space. So you can let that foot slide back, extend back through the foot. My foot's sliding under my wardrobe here. And then you can slide forwards and then swap over and extend that leg back. It might just be a reach back, but you can let the foot move. You can slide the foot down so we get that reach into the groin, and then we can draw it back in and bring the knee to the side, and just keep going with that just for a few cycles, feeling into it, feeling into the extension that can come into the sides of the waist as you move back and forth with this. Perfect. And then we're going to come back to our hands and knees, and maybe let's have a little wiggle through the hips as we move here. So a little wiggle through the hips to feel some freedom in the lower back. Now, this is fairly challenging, this posture, and it can be useful to have a couple of blocks either side or a couple of books either side. What we're going to do is take one leg forward. So we can take the right leg forwards and we'll wrap it around the left leg. So we're going to bring that leg into snuggle towards the other leg. Now, anyone with knee issues, what you can do is you can pretty much stay at this stage of the posture, and it might be that you don't quite huggle that leg in as much, but if you can draw the feet in towards each other, that's wonderful. So you're sort of snuggling your thighs into each other, you're snuggling your left leg into the back of the right knee, and you're pausing there. And then we may start to take ourselves back. So this is going to be okay for some. It might be just a slight walk back and you're leaning forwards. So again, if you're sensitive in the knees, you don't have to go all the way back. Some of you may be able to walk and walk and walk until you get to that oh so wonderful calf crushing sensation. And this is where blocks can be useful. You can pop them underneath your hands, either side of the hands. And, if you are using blocks, if you've got the luxury of some yoga equipment, then, you can lean forwards and you can take off some of that pressure through the calf if you need to. So let's just breathe. Now, what we get here is an intense, rich sensation through the calf if we are sitting back. So that intense, rich sensation is a call to awareness. It's a call to bringing all of your attention in. So let your attention rest on that sensation without, story or internal dialogue around it, but we just meet it for the purity of the sensation. Try not to add words to the experience, because words reduce an experience. Okay, let's lean ourselves forward. So you may walk your hands forwards, and then you can just simply lift up your back leg to bring yourselves back to your hands and knees. And then we're going to take the other side. So you might want to stretch out the back of the knees. So feel free to reach your feet back, your legs back as you need to. And then when you're ready, we're going to wrap the left leg in front of the right, unless you did the other leg, of course. Can't see you all, so some of you sneakily doing the other leg, that's fine. Just do the opposite leg to what you did before. And then you snuggle your legs in towards each other. And again, it's fine to be here. And it might be that you keep your hands firmly on the floor and you play into reaching back. So you just let the pelvis move back. You can start to feel into that. There should be, we do experience a very strong sensation in this posture in the calf, but it shouldn't be within the knee. So I want you to really take care of your knees as you're coming into this. We're always looking for sensations within the body to arise kind of in what we call the belly of the muscle. So in the center of the muscle tissue. If the sensations start to go into the insertion points of the muscles, into tendons, or into joints, then we kind of need to take a little step back. So we sit back here and we breathe. Support if needed, hands on blocks or leaning forwards if you need to. And let yourself go into that strong sensation in the calf. It's just a sensation. Normally, it is our reaction, in word-based reaction, that changes the sensation into something we either enjoy or we don't. So if we decide to just meet the sensation without having to label what we're experiencing here, then it becomes something that's much more interesting, that's much more meditative. Okay, you may walk your hands forwards and release your legs out. So you can just pick up the back leg. That's the easiest way to release out. You're back onto your hands and knees, and you might want to stretch out the knees from here. That's it, perfect. Okay, and then with your hands shoulder width apart and your fingers spread with ease, with a sense of real space between the fingers. And then we're going to feel into, again, a bit of movement. So your toes can be tucked under, your feet hip width apart, and we're going to allow ourselves to perhaps move back and forth. So we'll keep the toes tucked under. We'll keep the hands and the feet in place. So we're not moving the hands and the feet. So we can draw back towards the heels and feel a little stretch through the lower back. And then as we move forwards, what we get here is a little opening through the front groin area at the top of the thighs. So let's just play between those two actions. And as you play between those two actions again, we come back to our purpose of practicing yoga, which is integration, which is moving. So integration, it's that subjective, objective awareness coming together. So what we feel in the body, we dive into. What we experience in the body, we experience in the heart. We become that experience. Okay, so we're going to take this up into Adho Mukha Svanasana when you're ready, so you can push into your hands, a downward facing dog. Obviously, anyone with any wrist issues, you are, well, once you're up and you open up the space of the wrist, it should be okay. But if there is any difficulty there, you can bring your forearms down to the floor and you can reach through and breathe. So adapt as you need to. and play into it. Let it be, again, an exploration. Try not to get into the habitual sort of bending and stretching the knees, which people kind of get into, and that's okay. But if you're doing this, it should be, again, moving into it as a rich experience. Might be that perhaps it's more appropriate to feel a sway of the hips. Perhaps you're going to move your feet a little. Perhaps you're going to move your shoulders a little. Then perhaps you're just going to pick it all up to find that length through the body. Obviously, anytime you need to come down out of the posture, you come down. Okay, let's bring ourselves down to our hands and knees again and take a breath or two here. You are welcome to pick up your wrists and give your hands a bit of movement and just find a little flow there if you need to, so you can play with some movement in your hands if you feel you've got stuck there. So in many ways, what we do with yoga when we're working with the energy body, the subtle body, which consists of many, many channels through which energy flows, through which prana, life force flows, is we're looking at it like almost like it's traffic control, like we have a series of highways through our body. And we're looking for those areas where there might be a bit of traffic build-up, where we can allow, through some control, the traffic to flow equally. Okay, we're going to take ourselves back towards our heels. So just allow yourself to sink back in towards the heels. You can obviously take your knees apart if you prefer. You can allow your head to come down towards the floor or to a lift if you need to. So pop a block or folded blanket there, and you can come back into a child pose and just let the body settle. You can take as long as you need to come back. You can see Sally, I think it is there, just coming back really slowly, enjoying that stretch back into it. So this is really useful. Find your breath. Breathe. Okay. In your own time, you may bring yourselves up nice and slowly, steadily, coming. Sitting back on your heels, if that's comfortable, you can, of course, take some support between your buttocks and heels and just rest there. Perfect. Okay. Let's bring ourselves up onto our knees. Pad out your knees if you need to. So a blanket or even folding over the end of your mat a couple of times so you can prop it underneath your knees if you need that assistance. And then having your knees so they are around about fist width apart, okay? And then your feet can come directly behind them, behind your knees, so they may be slightly wider apart. So I want you to feel down into that contact with your knees. So you've got padding if you need it, but see if you can feel some contact through your shins and the floor as you reach back into the toes. And we're going to just feel into a lift up through the body here. So we're going to allow the shins to deepen down. We're going to allow ourselves to rise up through the body. And then we're going to bring our arms up above our head and we're going to reach up. Now we want a little light tone in the belly here. That's it, perfect. A little light tone in the belly here as you lift up into the chest, and you may move the arms and breathe. And it might be as we pick up that support of the light tone in the belly that lifts into the chest, and we feel a little support from the pelvic floor, that we may perhaps lift and we may perhaps lean back into it a little, but we're not really trying to go back to full Ustrasana. Those of you familiar with camel pose, we're just feeling into a little natural extension that we're trying to maintain in the back of the body as well as the front of the body. So if we dip back too soon, we lose that extension through the back of the body. Okay, well done. Come back down, releasing your arms, taking a breath. You may need again a little wiggle through the hips to loosen up the lower back area. And then I'd like you to step your foot that is closest to me forwards. Perfect. And when you step that foot forwards, we're going to feel in again to a little forwards and backwards movement as we did before. So again, you might need to pad the knee, and if you are dealing with particular knee issues and it's not working out for you, you're fine to just stay here. You're fine to just stay here and find your balance. But if you are happy to lean forwards into it, you can start to reach into that stretch through the inner groin as you fold forwards and come back, and you breathe. Maybe you might bring your hands onto your thigh for a little support. Perfect. Okay, now let's lean ourselves forwards to bring our hands down. So maybe your fingertips to the floor, or planting your hands down if you can. We're going to tuck the back toes under, and we're going to lengthen through the back leg. So your fingertips there on the floor, or hands, palms down. Fingertips I prefer at this stage because it just gives me a little bit more space in the chest. And then you can, again, let's just play into maybe a little swaying from side to side. So you can reach into that, all moving back and forth there. Perfect. Okay, and then we're going to come all the way up. We're going to keep this front knee bent. We're going to lift our hands from the floor, and we're going to raise our arms up. We're going to keep extending back towards the back heel, but keep that leg internally rotated, so you're not trying to get the heel down to the floor, but you are extending back into it to feel into this front groin extension. Perfect. Now let's take it into a little twist so we can keep the lift up out of the pelvis, and we'll bring our elbow onto the outside of the thigh. We can bring our other hand onto our sacrum and just take a breath here. And then it might be that you're able to bring your hand, if you feel fairly steady, onto the other hand, pressing your hands together, reaching your chest forwards, reaching into that back heel, breathing. Okay, and then we'll release. We'll bring our hands onto our front thigh. We'll just lift up a little if we can, and then we'll fold down. Bring your hands to the floor, plant them with awareness. Look at where you're placing your hands, and then step your foot back and push back into your downward facing dog. And again, you may go for this little swaying action, a little movement. Okay, let's step the other leg forward. So the leg that's furthest from me, perhaps, or did we do that? I can't remember. Maybe we did the left leg. We're doing the right leg. It looks like that. I've got my iPad back on board. I'm looking at you. So the knee is coming down. We're in this low lunge position, and at this low lunge position, we may be perhaps moving forth and back. So you can be up, hands on your thigh. If that's, not good for your knee, you can just take up either this position here. So you're reaching into the lunge, you're getting into that stretch through the inner groin area, or you can be upright. Okay, so let's all go forwards now. So you get your hands onto the floor, back toes are tucked under, and then you can lift up your back knee. Perfect. And take some deep breaths into where we feel that stretch. So into around that area of the front groin area, the top of the thigh. Okay, and then we're going to come up. So hands onto the front thigh, lift your body up, keeping that front knee bent, keeping extension into your back heel. And then you may raise your arms up. That's it, perfect. Breathe. Forehead soft, jaw release. Let yourself move into it as you need to. Don't be stiff. You're not trying to strike a pose. You're moving towards, really embodying these various positions that we move into, but adapting to the natural movement that's there. Okay, we're going to come into the twist now. Turn myself around, so I'm still turning towards you, but you don't need to. You're going to bring your elbow towards the outer thigh. Hand can be on your sacrum to start with. It might stay there, or you may place the hand on top of the other one, press into the hands, lengthen the chest forwards, breathe, reach into your back heel. Okay, well done. Let's release. Hands to the thigh, and then hands to the floor, and let's again take it back through Adho Mukha Svanasana. Breathe. Play into it as much as you need to. Okay, coming down, hands and knees. Take a breath. Come back to your heels for a moment. Take support if you need to between your buttocks and heels. Rest your hands there on your thighs. Close your eyes. Just feel this as a moment of just receiving the energy that we've started to tease in the body, that we've started to awaken. So if you are someone that finds visualization useful, we can feel, or we can visualize those many channels through the body. 72,000 is one of the most common figures quoted, but there are different texts that say over 1 million. Regardless, it's an arbitrary number. We can't really visualize that amount of channels precisely, but what we can feel is that there's no part of the body that is untouched by the flow of prana. There's no part of the body where prana cannot reach into, where life force cannot reach into. Okay, we're going to release from this posture now. We're going to bring ourselves into a wide stride seated posture. So you may need a block, a folded blanket. So you're going to sit across the length of your mat like so, taking your legs wide, drawing the buttock flesh out and back. And then once you've done that, so when you draw your buttock flesh out and back, it does help to really get your hands underneath and then draw the buttock flesh out and back. So it's an action of positioning the pelvis. That's what we're doing. It's not just that yogis like grabbing their own asses. We are positioning our pelvis so we get this little natural anterior tilt which allows us to lift upright. And if you don't get that, if you feel a bit slumped, then you sit yourself on a block or a folded blanket and you have the corner facing forwards towards the center of the pubis. And then you may place your hands perhaps to the floor behind you or to the floor in front of you. And, you know, whichever feels more supportive. So the support we're looking for is a support that enables us to find an internal lift. Okay, so sometimes we kind of get into the habit of sort of almost using our arms like a bit of scaffolding, like they are propping up the body, but it's not what they're doing. They are providing a support, but actually there's no propping up. We are using the arms to stabilize the body whilst we find an internal lift. And that internal lift is coming directly up through the midline of the body in front of the spine. So we can feel it from the pelvic floor, from, you know, where we have our pelvic floor pointing down towards the floor. We can feel a rising up from there. And that's not a gripping, it's an energetic rising up. It doesn't require any, you know, hardcore physical action here. And we feel that rising up through the midline towards the crown of the head. And we breathe into the inner thighs, we breathe into the inner groins, we breathe into the outer hips. And then we're going to bring ourselves towards the right side of the body. So we're going to take a little turn here. What I didn't say actually, if you're raising up your seat, is that, you know, one or two of you might need a little bit of support underneath the back of the knees. So, you know, take that support if you need it. Okay. So deepening your fingertips into the floor. Again, it's a little external support, but you know, the arms aren't creating the action. The action is coming from the internal body as we lift and turn. Softening your gaze towards your foot, or, you know, closing your eyes if you prefer. When you are free, you may grab your strap if you wish, or, you know, we don't need to use a strap for this. You may stay at this stage, but you might find that naturally you feel the urge to fold over that front leg, your right leg. So you can either walk your hands either side. A strap is useful because it gives us a little purchase point and helps us to stay spacious through the front of the body. So, you know, do use one if you find that useful. Once it breathe. Nice bright green strap there, Joe. Oh, it's one of those stretchy ones. Okay, and just give yourself, and it might be, you know, it doesn't have to be a linear posture that's only moving in one direction. You may start to fold in and you might get to a point, and then if you feel that your breath suddenly becomes tight, perhaps you might come up, find your breath, find some space in the body, and then you may continue to move forward. So it's You know, there's always a play, because our yoga is not determined by, you know, a particular shape. It's the whole of the process of moving through, moving out of this mergence between ourself, the body, or the object of our awareness, and awareness itself. And what we ultimately want to drop into is awareness itself. The body may be our dharana, our concentration point to move into awareness, but we can ultimately sort of leap off from that. So we move into an experience of just all-pervasive awareness. It includes the body, it includes the breath, it includes everything that we experience through the senses, it includes the space around us. Okay, you can bring yourselves up. You can make a little turn back to the center. Hands either on the floor in front of you or behind you, again, taking that support wherever you need that support. Sometimes we need to readjust our buttocks when we've moved to one side. So if you feel a little uneven, even yourself out again. And then you can lift and turn, lift and turn. And then you may again, it might be that you just stay here, that you're just turning towards the leg. That's enough. You know, there's richness here. We can feel the stretch through the inner thigh. We can feel the stretch through the back of the thighs. Or it might feel that, you know, there's a pull towards a folding of yourself over that front thigh. Perfect. Your breath is your greatest teacher in that it will tell you how you are practicing. If we find ourselves really merging into the breath, then we know we're moving into yoga. We know we're moving into this state of integration. Okay, you can bring yourselves up into the center. You can take hold of the back of your knees, because the legs always need a little extra assistance coming out of that. So use your hands to help bring the legs back in towards each other. You know, give yourselves a bit of movement as you need to, perhaps a little wiggle through the body, movement through the legs. Sometimes we need a little patting down of the legs, whatever you need to do, whatever feels useful. So we're going to come down onto our back again. We're going to use our blanket so we can open up the chest area, and we can give the lower back, so that those forward folds can be quite strong on those lower back muscles. So we're going to take our blanket, you may, or towel, folded into a position so you can roll it into a little sort of sausage. Okay, whatever you're using, a yoga mat can work well, a towel, a blanket of some kind. So you make like this thin sort of bolster shape, and then you're going to pop your blanket on the floor. Now, when you come into this, what you're looking for is we're going to be laying ourselves over it. So I'm coming in a bit closer to show you here, and it's going to come into this kind of area here. So you can see it corresponds with the lower part of my breastbone. It's directly behind there. So my shoulders will be above the blanket and they'll release to the floor. and it will fully open my chest, okay? So you come down, your knees are bent, your feet are on the floor, and that way you can tuck under as you come down, okay? Like this. And then you place yourself over. Now you can have some support under your head if you need it. So if you come down and your head feels like it's leaning back too much, grab some support, a pillow, a cushion, a block. And then you can take your arms out either nice and wide like so, or extending above your head. And this is a little more dynamic. And then you can either keep your feet on the floor, lift and extend the pelvis forwards, or you can extend your legs out. Perfect, and breathe. Now, do make sure that you are opening your chest. You're not pushing the shoulders up. The blanket's not too low, that you're not really feeling that open chest position. I'm just seeing if I can check you. That's it, perfect. Looking good, those of you I can see. And what you might find beneficial here is a little movement. So because that typically gets into an area where we can get quite tight from a lot of rounding forwards, and maybe we've been more active looking at our phones or being on our computers trying to keep up with news, so it may have pulled our posture a little more forwards. So we want this counterbalance to that, this opening of the chest. And it can feel quite strong. If it's too strong, you can unroll your blanket a little so it's not quite as high. But let's feel into a little movement across the blanket. So we're going to let ourselves move the knees towards the floor. So bring your feet back onto the floor if your legs are extended. And then we're going to let our knees just rolling on our feet to the outer edge of one foot, the inner edge of the other foot, dropping your knees to one side. And you can feel that you will move your upper body more over to one side of the blanket. So we start to feel that pushing into almost the side ribs there. A greater depth through one side of the blanket, and then we'll roll our legs back in. Feel that roll into the center, feeling that roll across the spine, and then letting your knees go to the other side so you can shift the weight across the blanket. There we go, breathing. And you may keep up that movement if you find it useful. You can move from side to side, feeling into that depth of the blanket. Or you can come back into the center and just simply rest there as you breathe, as you continue to merge with your breath, merge with the movement. So if you are moving your legs from side to side, we're going to bring ourselves back into the center now. Have your feet close enough towards you so you can press into your feet and just lift your pelvis a little way from the floor, a couple of centimeters or so. So you deepen that contact with your blanket, and let's take a couple of deeper, more spacious breaths here. So really enjoy your breath. It may feel strong, But, you know, it will be a wonderful release, and it will be a wonderful release when we remove our blanket in a moment. So enjoy that deep pressure. That deep pressure, you know, gets into the connective tissue, into the fascia. It helps to hydrate the connective tissue. So it helps us to feel looser in the body. This is how massage works. Okay, now you may continue lifting the pelvis a little more to let the shoulders roll towards the floor. And then you might be pushing your blanket forwards now, or pulling it out to the side. And then just roll yourselves back to the floor, your back to the floor, your pelvis to the floor. So you're just directly on the floor now. And then you can enjoy, you know, that softness through the back now. And feel the whole of that contact with the floor through the whole of the back. Okay, you may roll yourselves onto your side to come up from your side. We're going to keep this little rolled up blanket, and hopefully you've all got something that is firm. My recommendation, if you are using something that's fleecy, maybe next time, you know, bring a towel because it's a bit firmer. We're going to sort of half sit on this rolled up blanket. So you're going to sit towards the top of the thighs. You can have your sitting bones almost hanging over the back of it, but they can still be in contact with the blanket, okay? And we're just going to feel, so you want to really feel into the buttock crease on the firmness of your rolled up blanket here. And, you know, you can adjust your buttocks. It should help you to sit upright. But we're just going to feel into a little pressure across that area. So we're going to bring one hand to the sides, across it in front of your body. And we're just going to take a little roll over our blanket so we can just feel into that contact across the hip. And then we're going to roll ourselves back to the center, landing yourself evenly. And then taking yourself to the other side, hands to the floor, rolling across. That's it, perfect. Just keep that movement back and forth. Creeping your hands forwards, letting the pelvis turn, feeling the little stretch on either side for the waist as you lean to either side. That's it, perfect. Okay, and then come back to the center. And we're going to move ourselves back a little. So we're going to bring the buttocks off the edge of the blanket. Now we're going to need some support for this, because what it wants to do is allow us to drop back and round into the lower back. So we want to press our fingertips into the floor, and we want to push into the fingertips. So it's like a Dandasana, but we've got this little bit of pressure into the top of the thighs, into where, towards where the hamstrings insert, and we're encouraging this little lean forwards of the pelvis, a lift in the chest. We're breathing. Okay, well done. Now let's bring our hands onto our blanket. Okay, fingers over the edge of the blanket. We're going to take that little lean forwards. Now you can allow your feet to move here, so it's going to gather up my mat, you'll see. We're going to press into the hands, and it might be that you just get a little press, you don't get much of a lift, but you may be able to lift your bum up off the floor. You can see my mat has gathered because I've slid my feet in towards me to get that lift, and you're breathing. Perfect. Okay, now keep your hands into your blanket. Just draw your pelvis forwards. That's it, towards the feet, buttocks towards the feet. You can let your elbows bend. Keep the shoulder blades deep into the back, so you're opening your chest. Breathe. Maybe a little wiggle into the hips. Okay, well done. Come down. Sit cross your legs, release the hands. Now there may be a little sensation in the wrists, so you can let your wrists move if you need to release out. You know, try not to do anything too dramatic. Sometimes people want to really shake out, but just feel into a little movement, and you know, any sensation there will release by itself. It will release by itself. Okay. And just rest your hands on your knees again. We're in Sukhasana. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. If you need that little bit of support under your bum, you can simply sit yourself back onto your blanket or open it out a little if you need to. And let's allow ourselves to move into a little twist here. So we're going to inhale as we lift up. You're going to exhale. You can turn towards your screen. Bring one hand behind you, one hand to the knee. Breathe. See if you can feel into a release of the thigh bones. So just notice if there is any tendency for them to want to pull up, to want to grip in, and see if you can just simply by the power of being aware of your thighs, of being aware of the thigh crease, if you can bring release to that area. Okay, return back into the center, hands onto the knees, drop the shoulders. Forehead is soft, your jaw is released. Your breath is flowing. And you are flowing with your breath. Let's inhale as we rise up and exhale, and you can turn to the other side. So one hand on the floor behind you, one hand onto the knee, you lift and you turn. And again, you're free to move here. Okay, ease off, come back to the center. Resting your hands there. And then you may release your legs, give them a stretch out in front of you. Move around, give them a rub as you need to, anything you need to do. Now, I had a request for a yoga nidra session. Some of you may or may not know this, but chose the other thing you gave me the thumbs up or something there. Can't quite see. Yes, oh great. Okay, so I did say yesterday that I'm going to do this tonight in tonight's class. So maybe that's a welcome surprise for some of you that we're going to end our session with a yoga nidra. So for nidra, what we need to do is to lay down as we would for shavasana. So you're going to be here for about 20 minutes. So make sure you're warm. Pop your socks on now. Make sure you're comfortable. You know, if you've got carpet beneath you, you know, you're going to be comfortable with your head directly on the floor. But, you know, if you're on a hard floor, I recommend a little lift underneath your head, a folded blanket or something softer, because, you know, the floor becomes surprisingly hard against the back of your head when you're lying there for a longer period of time, longer than we would do for Shavasana. So, make sure you're warm, make sure you're comfortable. A little support behind the back of the knees can be nice if we're laying down for longer. So particularly if you have any niggling in the lower back, maybe some of you have got the luxury of a yoga bolster. You might want that underneath your knees. If you don't have the luxury of a yoga bolster, a good sized pillow is good that you can pop underneath your knees. So some of you may or may not know about what Yoga Nidra is. I think I know everyone who's in the class pretty much, except maybe one person. So Nidra meaning sleep. It's a guided practice. So you're just listening to my voice. You're following my voice, the instructions that I give. You're not having to move your body at all. But you're allowing yourself to move into this Nidra state, which is a state, it's called sleep, but ultimately it should be that state that we move into in deep sleep, deep dreamless sleep, but we remain conscious throughout. So it's a sort of profound state of sort of mindless, if that's the right word, or not being pulled by the fluctuations of our own mind, that we just drop into this sort of spacious awareness. Now, Yoga Nidra commonly does lead people into actual sleep, and perhaps, typically towards 8 o'clock on a Friday evening, it may lead you towards that. Don't worry. It's natural that you might drift in and out of sleep. You are looking to remain awake, but don't give yourself a hard time about staying awake. I want you to sort of, ride the instruction of Nidra, softly. Okay. So hopefully you've all laid down now and you are comfortable, so you can make any last minute adjustments that you need to make with the body. It's really important to be fully comfortable here. And as you lay down, you settle into your breath. So just following the flow of your breath in and out of your body. You may notice any external noises to my voice, to the room that you're in. And then, any noises that are a little closer, we can hear the sound of our own breath. You can hear my voice. You may even hear sounds within your own body. But just settle into that. And we can visualize our body lying here on the floor. Seeing your body here in your own room, in a place of comfort and ease. And then as you see your own body, you merge into your own body, you dive in. And we can repeat to ourselves, I am now practicing Yoga Nidra. And then you bring your attention into your breath, and your breath flows with ease. And we can ride the breath almost like a little wave that comes up and down the shore of a pebbly beach. Just a gentle lapping against the beach. The tide coming in, the wave coming in as we inhale, and rolling back into the sea, the ocean, as we exhale. So we're going to take our attention around the body now. So we're going to just simply move from place to place. You're going to follow my voice. You're not going to think about that place. You're just going to let your awareness touch in there, reside there, and then move swiftly on as my voice takes you. So we can start with the right side of the body, coming into the thumb, the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, the little finger, the palm of the hand, the back of the hand, the wrist, the forearm, the elbow, the upper arm, the shoulder, your armpit, side ribs, side waist, the outer hip, the front thigh, the knee, the shin, the ankle, the top of the foot, the big toe, the second toe, the third toe, the fourth toe, the fifth toe, the ball of the foot, the arch of the foot, the heel, left side, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, palm of the hand, back of the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder, armpit, side ribs, side of the waist, outer hip, front thigh, knee, shin, ankle, top of the foot, big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, ball of the foot, arch of the foot, heel, the back of the right heel, the back of the left heel, the right calf, the left calf, the back of the right knee, the back of the left knee, the back of the right thigh, the back of the left thigh, right buttock, left buttock, lower back, middle back, upper back, back of the neck, back of the head, top of the head, forehead, right eyebrow, left eyebrow, right eye, left eye, right cheek, left cheek, right nostril, left nostril, upper lip, lower lip, chin, throat, right side of the chest, left side of the chest, abdomen, pubis, the whole of the right leg, the whole of the left leg, the whole of the right arm, the whole of the left arm, the torso, your head, the very top point of the crown of your head, the soles of your feet, the back of your knees, your inner elbows, your armpits, the pit of your throat, the meeting point between your eyelids, the meeting points between your lips, the center of the palms of the hands, your fingertips, now come back to your breath, following the journey of the breath from the space that is in front of us, that space through which we draw the breath through the nostrils, down through the back of the throat, into the lungs, deep into the body. And that journey back from the depths of the body out into the space that surrounds us. Follow that flow. Follow that flow as an energetic movement between the external and the internal. Follow that flow as prana. And we may tune into that flow as prana, almost like light particles, perhaps visualizing particles of light drawing into the body on the tide of the breath, a little like the glistening light that we see reflected on the sea on a sunny day. We can draw in those particles of light, and we can give those particles of light to the space around us with the breath. Each particle of light is able to move into the body through those numerous channels. We may fill them with these light particles, these pranic particles of life force, illuminating the whole body. So our whole body almost sparkles. Feeling into that continuous flow. It may slow down at points. There may be even natural spacious pauses in that flow, but at no point we need to grasp for the breath. The breath is serving us. It's giving us what we need. We are the receiver of the breath. So we're going to, as we feel into the breath now, you may allow your visualization of the particles to just slowly subside, like twinkling stars. Sometimes they are shining more brightly, sometimes they dim. So we can dim down those little sparkles. So we just feel into the breath as it is. No added visualization, just feeling the natural flow of the breath. And as we feel into that natural flow of the breath, we're going to feel into the body. So it may naturally bring some slightly deeper breaths. You can feel that breath reaching into the physical body now. And you can feel the contact of your physical body against the floor, the depth of that contact, the stability of that contact, and the security of that contact. Here we are held. And we may take a couple of slower, deeper, extended breaths into the body now, where we are more deliberate with the breath, allowing that breath to slow down with ease, but just welcoming in that natural flow. Feeling into the space that surrounds the body. And we can feel directly into the space that is in front of our face. We can visualize there that we are able to look out into infinite space. The Chitakasha, the sky of consciousness, or the space of consciousness. And then we're going to repeat to ourselves, my yoga Nidra practice is now complete. And it might be that when you repeat that you naturally feel the urge to take a deeper, more expressive breath, perhaps really sighing out with that breath now, feeling your contact with the floor. And then when you're ready, slowly bending your knees and placing your feet to the floor. And you might feel that it's natural to take a deeper breath into the lower back here, feeling space in the lumbar between the top of the pelvis and the lower ribs. And then rolling yourself onto your right side to pause there. And then rolling yourself onto your other side again to pause there. And then in your own time, you can slowly bring yourselves up from your side. With any movement that you need, any stretching, any wiggling, wriggling. And come to sit in a comfortable seated posture, and we're going to close the class together. I'm going to bring our hands to our heart. So make sure you're comfortable. You can be kneeling, you can be cross-legged. So your hands are to your heart. You settle your breath, and we're going to chant Om 3 times together. So let's take a deep inhalation to prepare. Thank you all very much. Namo Vaha, Namaste. Thank you. Let's sneak myself over.